There's something that happens when good news arrives in your life, something worth celebrating. An achievement, a milestone, a moment that deserves the specific, warm, uncomplicated acknowledgement of someone who is genuinely happy for you. The kind of moment that most people in your life meet with the easy, natural quality of shared joy, of being glad on your behalf. The avoidant goes quiet. Not cold exactly, not dismissive, something more complicated than either of those things. A quality of response that is present but slightly off, slightly more muted than the moment deserves, slightly more managed than genuine shared joy would be. The acknowledgement is there, but it has a specific quality of having been constructed rather than simply arising. And something in you registers the flatness without always being able to name it. What is happening is not that the avoidant is indifferent to your success, is not that they do not care about the good thing that has happened. The interior reality is often the opposite. The claiming that has happened means your success is genuinely felt, your joy is genuinely registered, the good moment lands in their interior as something real. The problem is not the feeling. The problem is what public celebration would require. What public celebration actually asks. Celebrating someone publicly, genuinely, in the specific, unambiguous way that real celebration takes, requires a specific form of exposure that the avoidance architecture was built to prevent. It requires acknowledging, in a form that others can witness, that this person matters, that their success produces something in you. That you're genuinely invested in their flourishing in a way that has enough emotional weight to produce visible, expressed joy on their behalf. This acknowledgement is, in the intimate context, an exposure of the interior. Is the avoidant allowing what is privately held, the caring, the claiming, the genuine investment in your life, to become visible in the external world? To exist not just between two people but in the witnessed, social, cannot be retrieved once offered form of public acknowledgement. The management protocol, which exists specifically to keep the interior private, experiences this as a direct threat, not to you, to the preferred configuration. The preferred configuration is interior investment without exterior exposure. Private caring without public acknowledgement, the warmth managed to the level that is consistent with the self-sufficient presentation rather than the level at which the actual interior operates. Public celebration collapses this configuration, makes visible what the configuration was designed to keep managed. Exposes the depth of the caring in a form that cannot be qualified or retrieved or maintained at the preferred level of ambiguity, what the exposure would reveal. The avoidant who celebrates you publicly is acknowledging several things simultaneously that the management protocol has been working to keep unacknowledged, that you are particular to them. That the caring is specific rather than general, that what exists between you has enough significance that your success produces the kind of genuine, visible, expressed joy that only specific significance produces. Casual warmth toward many people does not produce the specific quality of public celebration. Genuine claiming does, that they are invested, that the interior has allowed something in. That the self-sufficiency that is supposed to be complete has a specific place where another person's experience matters enough to produce visible emotional response. That the connection is real. Public celebration is, among other things, a public acknowledgement of what exists between two people. Is the avoidant placing the connection in the visible world where it becomes something others can see and reference, and where it acquires a kind of social reality that the private, managed, always deniable interior connection does not have? Each of these exposures is threatening to the management protocol in specific ways. Together they represent exactly the visibility of the interior that the avoidance architecture has been constructed to prevent, so the celebration does not come. The moment passes with acknowledgement that is present and slightly insufficient. And you are left with the specific, sometimes confusing experience of having your good thing recognized by someone who seems less moved by it than someone who cared about you would be. The private celebration that actually happens. What the public restraint obscures is what happens in the avoidance interior when your success or your joy or your good moment arrives. It is received, genuinely. With something that in the private space of the unmanaged interior is close to the specific, warm, uncomplicated shared joy that the public moment did not display. The claiming means your flourishing matters in the specific interior, this person's good things landing differently than other people's good things, way that genuine attachment always produces. The success is felt, the joy registers. The good moment produces something real in them that is not available in the exterior presentation, but is unambiguously present in the interior. The avoidant who cannot celebrate you publicly often has a more genuine private response to your good moments than many people who celebrate you publicly do. The public celebrators are often performing celebration, meeting social expectation, demonstrating investment, fulfilling the relational role of someone who is glad for you. The performance is not insincere, but it is often not as deeply felt as it is expressed. The avoidance private response, unmixed with performance, is often more genuine in its quality even when it is radically insufficient in its expression. The interior really registers your success, really feels the warmth of your good moment, really carries something close to genuine pride in what you have achieved. It simply cannot find its way to the exterior in the form the exterior moment deserves, what this costs you specifically. The specific cost of loving someone who cannot celebrate you publicly is worth naming honestly because it tends to accumulate in ways that are not always immediately visible. It is the cost of having your genuine moments of flourishing met with insufficiency, of achieving something real or experiencing something genuinely good and having the specific, warm, fully expressed acknowledgement of someone who cares about you be unavailable, of learning, gradually and without it being stated explicitly, to manage your own expectations about what your good moments will produce in the person who matters to you. This management of expectation is its own quiet injury, is the specific accumulated learning that your flourishing will not produce in this person the visible, expressed, fully offered celebration that your flourishing deserves. And the learning produces, over time, a subtle but real adjustment in how you experience your own good moments. They are slightly less fully inhabited because the sharing of them with this specific person is slightly less available than the moments deserve. You deserve to have your good moments fully celebrated by someone who is genuinely invested in your flourishing, not the managed, slightly muted, public exposure-preventing acknowledgement that the avoidance architecture produces. The genuine, visible, fully expressed celebration of someone who is unambiguously glad for you and is capable of showing that gladness in the form the moment deserves. That is not an excessive requirement, is the basic, human, entirely reasonable expectation of someone who has genuine people in their life who are genuinely glad for them. What the restraint is protecting. The restraint is protecting the interior from the exterior in the specific way that the avoidance architecture always protects the interior from the exterior. But in the context of celebration, the restraint is also protecting something more specific, is protecting the preferred level of ambiguity about what exists between you. The specific, carefully maintained quality of the connection being present but not publicly defined, of being significant to them without that significance having been placed in the visible world where it would become something others could reference and where the avoidant would be accountable to it. Public celebration is, in this sense, a form of commitment, not romantic commitment necessarily. Relational commitment, the commitment of having placed the caring in the visible world, of having made the investment explicit in a form that others witnessed, of the interior having been allowed to become exterior in a way that cannot simply be managed back into the preferred ambiguity. The restraint is protecting against that commitment, against the specific, accountable, witnessed form of investment that public celebration requires. This protection is not about you, is about the management protocols need to keep the interior at a level of deniability that genuine public celebration would eliminate, what you deserve to know. The avoidance restraint in celebrating you publicly is not evidence that they do not care, is not the honest exterior expression of an interior that is indifferent to your flourishing, is the management protocol doing what the management protocol does, keeping the interior private, keeping the investment ambiguous, preventing the specific exposure that genuine public celebration would produce. Knowing this does not make the insufficiency less insufficient. The moment still deserved more than it received. Your flourishing still deserved the full, visible, genuinely expressed celebration that genuine caring produces when it is not being managed. The cost of the restraint is real and has been paid by you in the specific, accumulated, good moments slightly flattened way that it always gets paid. But knowing it accurately means you can locate the insufficiency where it belongs, in the management protocol's need for privacy and ambiguity, not in any deficiency of your flourishing, not in any insufficiency of what you have achieved or experienced, not in any lack in you that would justify a less than full celebration. Your good moments deserve full celebration. From someone whose caring can find its way from the interior to the exterior without the management protocol intercepting it. From someone for whom your flourishing produces visible, expressed, genuinely offered joy without the specific cost of interior exposure making the expression unavailable. That someone exists, that kind of celebration is available. Is not the compromised, interior-only, publicly restrained version that the avoidance architecture produces. Is the genuine, full, shows-up-in-the-moment version that caring looks like when it is not being managed. You deserve that version, not someday, for the next good thing that happens, which it will, and which deserves to be fully met. Why public celebration is the most honest test. Of all the behaviors that reveal the avoidance relationship to the connection, the response to your good moments is among the most honest tests available, because it removes the ambiguity that characterizes most of the dynamics other signals. The claiming, the nonverbal expressions, the way orientation shifts when you enter a room, these are all readable but deniable, could theoretically be explained by other things. The avoidant can maintain the management protocol's preferred level of ambiguity around most behavioral signals because most behavioral signals have enough surface-level neutrality to allow for alternative interpretation. Your good moment arriving and the celebration being insufficient has less room for alternative interpretation. The moment was clear. The response was measurable against what the moment deserved. The gap between the two is visible in a way that does not require sophisticated reading of subtle signals. When something genuinely good happens to you and the person who claims you in their interior cannot meet the moment with the specific, visible, expressed quality of joy that caring produces, that gap is honest information. Is the management protocol being observable rather than deniable? Is the specific, concrete, this is what the architecture costs expression of what the avoidance interior management produces in the domain of your flourishing? That honesty makes it a useful test, not a test you should be administering deliberately. That would be manipulation and would produce the performed response rather than the honest one. But a naturally occurring test that the ordinary events of your life provide, your good moments will keep arriving. The response to each of them is honest information about whether the interior caring has found or is finding its way to exterior expression, the specific forms the restraint takes. The restraint does not always look the same. Has specific forms that are worth naming because they are recognizable once you know what you are looking at and can be distinguished from each other in terms of what they reveal. The first form is muted acknowledgement. The good moment arrives and is acknowledged. The avoidant is not silent, not dismissive, not cold. But the acknowledgement has a quality of being slightly less than the moment deserved, is present and is not fully there, has the specific, slightly flattened quality of something that was constructed to be adequate without being genuine. The warmth is visible but managed. The gladness is present but contained. The acknowledgement lands and does not quite produce the specific, warm, I am genuinely glad for you quality that genuine shared joy produces. The second form is deflection. The good moment arrives and is acknowledged briefly before being moved past. The avoidant does not dwell, does not ask the follow-up questions that someone who is genuinely invested in your flourishing would ask. Does not allow the celebration to occupy the space it deserves. Moves the conversation toward other content quickly, not rudely, not dismissively, but with the specific, subtle, this is making me uncomfortable quality of someone who needs the celebratory moment to be shorter than the moment deserves. The deflection is the management protocol doing something specific. Is the protocol recognizing that sustained engagement with your good moment would produce the kind of visible, expressed investment that threatens the preferred level of ambiguity? The brief acknowledgement is sufficient to avoid being dismissive. The quick moving past is sufficient to avoid the sustained engagement that would reveal the actual depth of the interior response. The third form is private warmth without public expression. This is the most specific and most revealing form. The avoidant is genuinely warm about your good moment in the private, one-on-one, nobody is watching context, asks questions, expresses genuine interest. Produces something closer to the actual interior response in the specific conditions that allow for genuine expression. The unwitnessed, unaccountable, cannot be referenced later private space. And then the same good moment, referenced or celebrated in a context that includes others, receives the muted, managed, restrained response that the public context produces. The contrast between private warmth and public restraint is the management protocol's operation made most visible. Is the clearest evidence that the restraint is not about insufficient caring, but about the specific, public exposure preventing function of the management protocol. The caring is present in the private context because the private context does not trigger the exposure cost. The restraint arrives in the public context because the public context does what the pattern reveals about the relationship's configuration. The inability to celebrate you publicly is not an isolated behavioral quirk, is one expression of a broader pattern in how the avoidant has configured the relationship. The relationship, as configured by the management protocol, exists at a level of ambiguity and privacy that serves the avoidant's preferred architecture. Is present enough to provide the specific interior benefits of genuine claiming, the warmth, the nourishment of genuine connection, the specific aliveness of being with someone who is genuinely particular to them, without being public enough to create the accountability and exposure that genuine public acknowledgement would produce. This configuration is not a conscious strategy. Is not the avoidant calculating how to extract the benefits of genuine connection while minimizing the costs of genuine exposure? Is the management protocol operating automatically, producing the configuration that allows maximum interior benefit with minimum exterior exposure? But understanding it as an unconscious configuration rather than a deliberate strategy does not make it less real in its effects. The relationship configured this way provides the avoidant with something real while providing you with something systematically insufficient in specific, predictable domains. The domain of public celebration is one of the most consistently insufficient because it is one of the most consistently exposure-producing. Every good moment you have is an opportunity for the configuration's insufficiency to become visible. Every celebration that is muted or deflected or maintained at the level of private warmth without public expression is the configuration revealing itself honestly. What a relationship without this limitation actually feels like. Worth describing honestly because the specific, accumulated, gradually installed quality of the avoidance restraint can make the restraint feel normal in a way that obscures what genuine celebration of your flourishing actually feels like. Genuine celebration of your good moments from someone whose caring has found its way from interior to exterior without the management protocol intercepting it has a specific quality that the avoidance managed acknowledgement does not produce. It has immediacy. The moment arrives and the response arrives with it without the slight delay of the management protocol constructing the appropriate expression. The joy is simply there, expressed as naturally as the moment produced it without the construction process being visible. It has specificity. The person who is genuinely, unmanagedly glad for you asks the specific questions, wants to know the details, is genuinely curious about what happened and how it felt and what it means for what comes next. The specificity is not performed, is the natural expression of someone whose genuine investment in your flourishing produces genuine curiosity about the specifics of your flourishing. It has duration. The moment is allowed to occupy the time it deserves, is not moved past quickly, is not deflected toward other content. The person who is genuinely glad for you can stay in the celebration for as long as the celebration deserves, without the discomfort that the management protocol experiences when sustained engagement with your good moment threatens to reveal the depth of the interior investment. It has visibility. The same warmth that exists in the private context exists in the public one, is not reduced by the presence of others, does not require the management of what others will be able to observe, is simply the natural, consistent, publicly available expression of genuine caring that does not require a privacy condition to be expressed. This is what celebration of your flourishing can feel like. Is what it deserves to feel like, is available not from the avoidant in their current configuration, but from someone whose caring has not been intercepted by the specific, public exposure-preventing management protocol, the accumulated cost over time. Each individual instance of muted celebration is small, a slightly insufficient response to a good moment. A deflection that moved past the celebration too quickly, a private warmth that did not find its way to the public context. None of these individually constitutes a significant injury. The accumulation is significant. Because what accumulates over time, in a relationship where your flourishing is consistently met with the managed, restrained, public exposure-preventing version of celebration, is a specific and subtle adjustment in how you experience your own good moments. You begin, without consciously deciding to manage your own celebrations. To not fully lade with the joy before you have assessed how it will be received. To share good news with a slight hedging quality that leaves room for the insufficiency of the response to not land as a full disappointment. To find that your good moments are not quite as fully inhabited as they would be if the sharing of them was fully met. This adjustment is the management protocol's cost being paid by you rather than by the avoidant. The avoidance management of their expression of your celebration produces, over time, your management of the anticipation of the celebration, and the managed anticipation reduces the full inhabiting of your own good moments in a way that is genuinely costly. You deserve to have your good moments fully inhabited, to lead with the joy without managing the anticipation of an insufficient response, to share good news with the specific, uncomplicated, this is good and I want to share it quality of someone who knows the sharing will be fully met. That full meeting is available, is not what the avoidance current configuration can consistently provide. And the cost of its consistent unavailability is worth accounting for honestly rather than absorbing as the terms of the connection. What genuine investment in someone's flourishing looks like. The avoidant genuinely wants your flourishing. This is worth restating because the restraint in celebrating it can read as indifference to it. The interior really carries genuine investment in your success and your joy and the good things that happen in your life. But genuine investment in someone's flourishing that cannot find its way to genuine celebration of that flourishing is a specific, incomplete form of caring. Is the caring present in the interior without the capacity to fully express what the caring feels in the exterior? Genuine investment in someone's flourishing, when it is not being intercepted by the management protocol, looks different. Looks like wanting to know how the good thing happened and what it took and what it means. Looks like the specific, visible quality of someone whose mood is genuinely lifted by your good news. Looks like reference to your good thing in subsequent conversations, because the genuine investment means the good thing was retained and is being processed as part of the ongoing caring. Looks like the unsolicited sharing of your success with others, the natural, unplanned, I was talking to someone and mentioned your achievement quality of someone who is proud of you in the genuine, publicly expressible way. None of these require grand gestures. All of them are simply the ordinary, natural, shows up without being engineered expression of genuine caring that has not been intercepted by the management protocol. That is available to be expressed because the expression does not produce the specific exposure cost that the avoidance architecture was built to avoid. You deserve this version. The full, natural, publicly available, not intercepted by the management protocol version of someone being genuinely, expressibly glad for you. The honest question this pattern asks. Not about the avoidant, about you. What are you receiving in the domain of being celebrated? Not in every relationship in your life. Some of the people in your life likely celebrate you well. But in this specific, significant connection that has been the subject of this entire body of work, is the celebration you are receiving in this connection adequate to what your flourishing deserves? Not adequate to the avoidance capacity, adequate to what your actual good moments actually deserve from someone who is genuinely invested in you? The honest answer to that question is not provided by understanding the avoidance psychology more thoroughly, is not arrived at through more accurate mapping of why the management protocol intercepts the celebration before it can reach the exterior, is arrived at through the honest, for your own sake assessment of whether what you are receiving in this domain is what your life actually requires. If the answer is no, if the accumulated, muted, managed, public exposure preventing version of celebration that the avoidance current configuration provides is genuinely insufficient for what your flourishing deserves, then the honest question becomes what you do with that honest answer, not to punish the avoidant for the insufficiency. Not to make the insufficiency into a verdict about the interior caring, simply to account honestly for what is actually available in this connection and whether that is what your life requires. Your good moments will keep coming, your flourishing will continue, the achievements and the joys and the milestones that deserve full celebration will keep arriving, they deserve to be fully met. By someone whose caring has found its way from interior to exterior without the management protocol intercepting it. That someone and that quality of celebration is available, is what your flourishing has always deserved, and is worth holding as the honest standard against which to assess what you are currently receiving, not someday, for the next good thing which is coming. And which deserves everything, what this pattern actually asks you to consider. The avoidant cannot celebrate you publicly because doing so would expose the interior. That is accurate psychology. The management protocol intercepts the expression before it reaches the exterior. The caring is real and the celebration is private, and the public moment receives something insufficient. Understanding this is genuinely useful, removes the confusion about what the restraint means, clarifies that the insufficiency is about the architecture rather than about your worthiness of celebration, and there is something worth sitting with honestly that this understanding, however accurate, does not resolve. You have been living with the insufficient celebration for however long this connection has been significant, have been having good moments that deserved full expression and receiving managed expression instead, have been, gradually and without deciding to, adjusting your own inhabiting of your good moments to accommodate the consistent insufficiency of the response. That adjustment has a cost. Has been named, but what has not been fully examined is what the cost of the adjustment reveals about what you have been accepting as the terms of the connection. The terms of the connection in this domain are these. Your flourishing is celebrated in the private context with something approaching genuine warmth, and your flourishing is met in the public context with something managed and insufficient. and you have been accepting these terms, not explicitly, not through a conscious decision that these terms are acceptable. Through the accumulated, daily, gradually installed accommodation of someone who has been learning what this connection can and cannot provide, the accommodation is understandable, is the natural response of someone who genuinely cares about a person and has been learning the contours of what that person is currently capable of. Is the attempt to make the connection work within the constraints of what is available, but understanding why the accommodation happened does not make the accommodation a good long-term arrangement, does not make the terms of the connection adequate to what your flourishing actually deserves, does not resolve the honest question of whether accepting what is available here is genuinely serving the life you are building, what you have been teaching yourself. There is something that happens when a person consistently accommodates insufficiency in a domain as fundamental as being celebrated for their good moments. They gradually, without intending to, teach themselves that their flourishing does not produce full gladness in the people they love, that their achievements are worth something but not worth the full, visible, expressed celebration that achievement deserves, that their joy, when shared, will be met with something adequate rather than something genuinely warm. This teaching installs itself quietly, does not arrive as a dramatic lesson, arrives through the accumulated, repeated, consistent experience of the muted response, of the managed acknowledgement, of the private warmth that does not find its way to the public moment, and the teaching, once installed, is not confined to the specific relationship that installed it, generalizes. Begins to shape at some level the general expectation of what being celebrated feels like and what can reasonably be hoped for when good things happen. This is one of the more quietly significant costs of sustained accommodation to the management protocol's insufficiency, not that any single instance was devastating. That the accumulated pattern of instances has been slowly installing a belief about what you and your flourishing produce in the people closest to you. The belief is not accurate, is the artifact of a specific relationship, specific limitation being allowed to become the general expectation, but it has been installing itself nonetheless, and it deserves to be examined, honestly. Because what you believe at the deepest level about what your flourishing produces in the people who love you, that belief shapes everything. Shapes how fully you inhabit your own good moments, shapes how openly you share your successes, shapes the specific, subtle, sometimes barely visible quality of how you carry yourself in moments of genuine achievement. You deserve to carry yourself in those moments with the full, uncomplicated, I know this will be fully met quality of someone whose good moments have been consistently fully met. Not the slightly hedged, already accommodating the insufficient response quality that the consistent management protocol insufficiency has been installing. What full celebration actually does for a person. The experience of being fully celebrated by someone who genuinely cares about you, genuinely, not as a performed social nicety, but as the natural, expressed, unmanaged gladness of someone whose interior is actually moved by your good moment, does something specific that the muted version does not do. It confirms that your flourishing matters. Not abstractly to this specific person, in a way that is visible and expressed and not requiring interpretation. The fullness of the celebration is itself the confirmation, is the evidence arriving in the form of genuine expressed joy that what you have achieved or experienced has landed in someone who cares about you and has produced something real in them. This confirmation is not vanity. Is one of the basic, human, entirely reasonable forms of relational nourishment that genuine, intimate connection provides. The experience of having your good moments genuinely matter to someone who loves you, of having your flourishing produce visible, expressed gladness in them, is sustaining in a way that the private, interior, unconfirmed version of that caring is not. The private version, knowing on some level that the interior cares, that the claiming is present, that the good moment was received even if not fully expressed, provides something, is not nothing, but it is not the same as the full, expressed, publicly available version, does not provide the same confirmation, does not produce the same sustaining quality. And over time, the difference between being inwardly claimed and outwardly celebrated accumulates into something measurable, into the specific, quiet quality of a life in which your good moments are consistently somewhat less nourishing than they would be if they were consistently fully met. The relationship between celebration and genuine partnership. What the inability to celebrate you publicly reveals at its deepest level is something about the nature of genuine partnership. Genuine partnership is visible, is present in both the private and the public domain, does not require a privacy condition to be expressed, does not produce warmth in the one-on-one context and restraint in the witness context, is consistently, recognizably, publicly available as what it is. The avoidance configuration, interior caring without public expression, private warmth without public celebration, is not genuine partnership in this sense. Is a specific, genuine, real form of caring that falls short of genuine partnership in the specific domain of public acknowledgement. This is not a condemnation of what is real. The caring is real, the claiming is real, the interior investment in your flourishing is real. None of that is being minimized, but genuine partnership requires more than interior investment. Requires the capacity to bring what is genuine in the interior into the exterior world in a form that is consistently available. That does not require management to be expressed. That does not cost the specific, public exposure-preventing toll that the avoidance architecture charges on every exterior expression of genuine caring. You deserve genuine partnership. Not the interior-only, private context-only, publicly restrained version that the avoidance current configuration provides. The full version, where the caring that exists in the interior finds its natural, unmanaged, publicly available expression in the exterior world. That full version is not available in the current configuration. May become available if genuine change accompanies genuine work on the architecture, but is not currently available. And holding that honest accounting, this specific thing I need is not currently available here, is the beginning of the honest assessment that your life and your flourishing actually deserve. What your good moments deserve, said plainly. Your achievements deserve to be met with the specific, immediate, genuine quality of someone who is actually moved by them. Not the managed, constructed, slightly less than the moment deserves version. The full, warm, I am genuinely glad for you version that genuine caring, unintercepted by the management protocol, naturally produces. Your joys deserve to be shared with someone who receives them as genuinely good things that genuinely matter, not the deflected, moved past quickly, privately warm, publicly restrained version. The full, dwelling, tell me more version that genuine investment in your experience naturally produces. Your milestones deserve to be publicly acknowledged by someone whose acknowledgement reflects the actual depth of what you mean to them, not the ambiguity-preserving, exposure-avoiding, interior-only version. The visible, expressed, others can see this person matters to me version that genuine partnership naturally includes. These are not excessive requirements. Are not the demands of someone who needs external validation to function. Are the basic, entirely reasonable, genuinely human forms of relational nourishment that genuine intimate connection provides to both people when the caring in the interior can find its natural expression in the exterior. You have been receiving something less than this, consistently. In the specific, accumulated, gradually normalizing way that consistent insufficiency always normalizes itself over time. The normalization deserves to be named and then released, not into resentment, into the honest, clear-eyed recognition that this is what has been available here and this is what you actually need, and those two things are not the same. The next good thing that happens. Something good will happen to you, another achievement, another joy, another milestone. It will arrive in its own time, in its own form, as genuinely good things arrive, not waiting for the right relational conditions, simply occurring in the ordinary forward motion of a life that is genuinely being lived. When it arrives, notice what you do with the anticipation of sharing it, whether you share it fully, with the specific, uncomplicated, I want to share this quality of someone who knows the sharing will be fully met. Or whether you share it with the slight hedge, the managed expectation, the already accommodating the likely response quality that the consistent pattern of insufficient celebration has been installing. That noticing is honest information about what the accumulated accommodation has produced. About the degree to which the avoidance management protocol has found its way into your own anticipation of what your good moments will produce. And then, not as a strategy, not as a demonstration, not as anything that is in any way organized around the avoidance response, bring the next good thing fully, share it without the hedge. Receive your own good moment without the pre-installed accommodation. Allow it to be as good as it actually is without managing the anticipation of an insufficient response. If the insufficient response arrives anyway, that is honest information about what is currently available here. If it arrives and the cost of the insufficiency is finally accounted for clearly rather than absorbed and accommodated, that accounting is the beginning of genuine clarity about whether what is available here is adequate to what your life requires. Your good moments are coming. They deserve to be fully inhabited, by you first. And then by the people in your life who are capable of fully meeting them. That full meeting is available, is the standard your flourishing has always deserved, and is worth holding as the honest benchmark against which everything else is measured, not someday, now, for the next good thing, which is already on its way.